We'll get deeper into it.
My name's Johanna Divine, and I've done a project with Denise Gallagher. It's a music and art.
I'm Denise Gallagher. I'm the illustrator for Joanna's newest CD, Electric Tide, and that's our project.
Hi, my name is Paige Krause, and myself, along with Marla Krsticevic, we have a performance installation performance group called Collaborate 78, and we do a lot of work where we bring art to an audience instead of the audience coming to the art, so we do a lot of site-specific performance. And the latest project that we've been working on, it's titled I've Stopped Having That Dream I've Been Having, and it's an installation performance piece. It has 4 dancers in it. I'm a choreographer, a live musician and composer, and then a visual art. And it was recently accepted to the Montreal Fringe Festival. So it was, thanks. It's a Kickstarter campaign to help us with funding to get 7 company members up to Montreal for 2 weeks.
Hello, my name is Jason Bienvenu, and I did a comic book mini-series entitled The Kingdom.
Fantastic. So here, we apologize, we should have had these up. We're trying to get them up while they're on there. But this is some of the cover art for the first project, the Johanna Divine album that Denise did the work for. And then this is a short video. Should we play a little bit of this video, you think, Paige?
Yeah, if you have time, that'd be great.
Yeah, we can do a second series. Just give you guys a flavor of what it is, and then we'll get a little deeper into the discussion.
Collaborate 78 was created by 2 artists interested in coming together to examine the relationship between visual and performing arts. We have had the privilege for the past year to work as the artist in residence at the Acadiana Center for the Arts in Lafayette, Louisiana, creating a performance installation of the work I've Stopped Having That Dream I've Been Having. We began the process by collaborating with composer, musician Philippe Landry, creating a performance installation with movement for sound and sound for movement. With my work being process-driven, I have created a performance rich with images, words, and stories which explore the landscape of dreams. I was drawn to the nature in which Philippe worked. His commitment to the process was deeply involved, which gave us both a new platform in creating and collaborating.
We collected and surrounded ourselves in the process, creating a performance which explored the dream state, combining an original live score, modern dance, and site-specific visual sculpture. So here's where we need your support.
So here is where we need your support.
We were recently selected to perform this work at the Montreal Fringe Festival in June 2012.
Le Festival Fringe de Montréal montre les talents de la musique, de la comédie, de la danse et du théâtre des artistes locaux et internationaux.
Your generous donation will help 7 company members
With airfare,
Housing accommodations,
Stipends for each company member,
and supplies for us to recreate a portable set.
this will be our first time to showcase our work to an international audience, and we are really excited. We just need your help to get us there.
Thank you for supporting our adventure in bringing this work from Lafayette to Montreal.
Thank you for supporting our adventure in bringing this work from Lafayette to Montreal.
And as you're happy to see, they are fully funded, right? That's fantastic. I'll just play a quick short video of the Electric Tide as well, so you guys get a sense of that project.
My name's Johanna Divine, and I'm a writer and musician.
I'm Denise Gallagher, and I'm an artist.
When I first saw Denise's work around town, I was immediately drawn to it. She uses story and color in her artwork and this layering effect in her paintings and drawings that to me is just beautiful.
She asked me if I would consider creating some artwork for her new CD, and I was so flattered that she asked me because her music is incredible. I could dance to it, sing to it, and immersed myself in the new CD and just, I could listen to it daily because it's just wonderful. What I did was I listened to the whole album and took how it made me feel and thought about the images that came to my mind. Electric tide, floating on a tide, the feeling of place that she had in some of her other songs really, truly inspired me. And it was fun to listen to and thoroughly immerse myself in the CD and really use the inspiration to create artwork.
When you get into an artist's world, things look different. This experience has been a real give and take for Denise and I, but the most refreshing aspect for me has been seeing my songs through her eyes. She's showing me what's being pulled out of the songs that I write, which is such an incredible thing to see from someone else's perspective. So as it turns out, Denise won an award for the artwork from the Los Angeles Society of Illustrators. We were so happy with the collaboration at that point that we decided to take it a step further and incorporate as much of her artwork as possible into the album. What this Kickstarter campaign pays for is the additional cost of design and printing, so that what we end up with is a true collaboration between Denise and I. The album is basically done. It's been recorded, mixed, and is in the process of being mastered. It's songs written by me and illustrated by Denise. Denise and I are so excited for you to see and hear what we've come up with. Thank you so much for your support.
And yet again, another fully funded project there as well. It was fantastic. And so then leading into, this is some of Jason's work. Jason, why don't you tell us a bit more about your project and why Kickstarter? Why did you decide to go that direction with your project?
Sure. This is a couple of pages from the first issue of the comic book. And I had actually finished the first issue before I had found out about Kickstarter. I actually heard about Kickstarter from Cody Chamberlain, who had used it to fund his comic book project. So I went ahead and researched Kickstarter and basically just decided to give it a shot, and it worked out pretty good.
So what was the intent? Was to be able to start getting some pre-sales going?
The thing that I like about Kickstarter is that it's a win-win situation. It's a fundraiser, and it's also a promotional media item. So I basically really wanted to get the word out, and that way if I didn't meet goal, at least there was an audience that would be interested in possibly purchasing it on a print-on-demand basis.
But and your project was fully funded as well, right?
Yes, it was.
Fantastic. Denise and Johanna, was it a similar rationale for you guys why you got into Kickstarter, or what drove you to that platform?
Well, Johanna asked me to do the original design for her new CD, and she loved it so much that she wanted to do more, more art. She said, I want more, but I can't afford to pay you. And so she came up with the idea. It was Johanna's idea to do what we are calling an illustrated CD, or what is it called for artsy people?
Right,
illustrated music for artsy people.
Illustrated music for artsy people. That was our little tagline.
And the point was to pre-sell the CD so that we could do a more elaborate CD packaging with a pocket fold and a fold-out poster inside, so that you could see her music tells a story and my illustrations tell a story, and together, working together, it just was the perfect collaboration. I think we inspired each other, and Kickstarter was a means for us to get this project a reality, make it a reality, without having to take out a loan or get a grant. And it was a way to, like a grassroots effort for us to promote ourselves. And it was really exciting to see all the excitement that we drummed up, through Facebook and emailing and Twitter. And our project was funded in 5 days, and we were just shocked, but excited too, because we both are passionate about what we do, and
to see that come across was exciting.
Excellent. And Paige, for you, it was a little bit different, though, because you guys weren't necessarily looking to sell something, right?
Right.
So why Kickstarter instead of a more traditional go after a grant or try to sell a sponsorship or something like that?
Yeah, well, we had actually found out about being accepted in Montreal in November, and so it's kind of a quick, with grants, there's a lot more prep work that goes into it, and it was just too quick that we couldn't apply for many grants. And honestly, I mean, I think there was something about Kickstarter that, for me, dance is probably one of the hardest things that gets funding. It's really hard to fund dance, and it's hard for your community to get behind it. And especially the work I do in Lafayette, Louisiana, has been a little bit harder to introduce to my audience here because they're not as maybe familiar. We don't have as many options. And with music, I think you're generating this income. You can play different venues, festivals, bars. And with dance, I mean, rehearsal to create the 45-minute piece, we were in the process for about a year. So we only had 2 or 3 shows, and those were looking at creative ways to have those shows. We did a few here. We did Festival International last year to sort of bring dance within festival. And so for me, I felt like there were a few things with Kickstarter. I knew that I think it takes the right project to do with Kickstarter. I mean, it's obviously something you couldn't do over too many times, but it really gives your audience or your community a way to invest in it. They're behind it. And I actually work as an arts administrator here at the ACA, and although I think our grants, and we talk about the NEA and the funding with Kickstarter and comparing those, is wonderful. I also think with projects for artists, it's really nice to be able to have the support behind it, and it's such a creative way to do it. I mean, you're outlining your project, and you're showing a great video that you're creating, and you're giving them these great incentives to buy into the project and to be behind it and to see it grow and to see it continue. And so that's, I guess, sort of why I took that.
Well, it's interesting because you guys all seem to be saying a similar thing, and that part of Kickstarter, it's not just about raising the money, it's about this community building aspect. Did you all kind of feel that, and has that continued? Has that energy that you created in the Kickstarter, is that dialogue still going?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, and what was really great is that it opened up so many conversations to a community of artists outside of Lafayette for me. I have now been communicating with someone who works in Germany that has a dance festival, a few people in Canada that have been supporting it, a few in New Orleans, a girl in Detroit. So I've kind of, it's really opened the door for me to meet other artists that are doing similar work, and they've written me messages, and we've created this dialogue. So I think that's great. Yeah.
I would just add that I think this is all about collaboration, and I've heard that term thrown out a lot today, just in the sessions that I've attended. So I think this is a great way that we're not only collaborating with each other as artists, but almost collaborating with the audience. I mean, you can put a reward out there and see what shines and see what's popular and see what people want and see what people respond to. You can interact, literally there's no distance between the artist and the audience here. I mean, you're, in some cases interacting as you're creating the work. So I'm not sure, Jason, you had mentioned something about how you had already started the project essentially before you went out and got Kickstarter.
Right. I had started it for myself.
Did it change your, I was sort of curious, did it change your outcome?
I started the project for myself. I hadn't intended to show it to anyone, and then once I actually had the first issue, I decided, well, let me find a way to get this out to people that might want to look at it. And another thing that I like about Kickstarter is that it's a very much peer-to-peer program where you don't have to go through an editor or anyone that might shoot down the project before your audience can actually view it. When we listen to radio, when we watch TV, we're watching something that someone's already programmed for you. These are your options. So I like that this allows people to view your project, and if they want to support it, they can go ahead and do that.
Paige, you brought up the fact that part of Kickstarter actually helped you access into a larger community. I'm curious to the panel as a whole, do you guys have a sense of, for the people who did support you, was it primarily friends and family? Was it primarily local? Was it a much broader kind of audience? And how much of that was something that was kind of intentional, that you went out and did it, versus just organic, that it just kind of happened on itself?
a lot of it was friends and family at first, but then Kickstarter put us on the main page, and so we got a lot of support from people all over the world, actually. And the one thing that was really exciting to me is that I sell prints on Etsy, and I got a request for a print, and I noticed that it was a guy who works at Kickstarter. He had gone to my site and he liked my work, and so he decided to buy a print of something completely different, which was pretty flattering. I was really excited about that because, I mean, they see so many projects, and for him to single me out was pretty neat. But it's true. I've communicated with people, different artists. We've met different people through this Kickstarter campaign. It's been really opening doors for us, you know, and it's exciting for both of us, you know. And the whole grassroots thing, the having the community behind us is really, it's nice to know that so many people appreciate what we're doing, you know, because sometimes as an artist you work, you know, and you do your little thing, and you know, you're not sure if you're reaching anyone or touching anyone, and to get so much enthusiasm behind it was really kind of fulfilling.
What was your experience with that, Jason? Was it a similar thing? It started friends and family and then grew from there? Or?
Actually, I had a small amount from friends and family, and the vast majority was from strangers. And I actually had an art blog before I started the Kickstarter that I could track where countries were following, and it was primarily the United States and the UK. And by the end of the project, it was pretty much every continent. And it was really neat to see people that had obviously they didn't speak English, and they were using Google Translate to correspond with me back and forth. So it was really neat to see the viewing go way up after the project was launched.
Paige, what was your experience with that?
Yeah, I would say it's the same. I mean, I had such a range, and of course, like at the beginning, it was friends and family, and there are 7 of us that work in the collective, so we, of course, had like a lot of people that we were marketing it to, and one of the, I guess, funny things about it was that Philippe, who's the composer and musician, he lives in New Orleans now, but it was sort of this running joke, he's never been on an airplane, and so someone made a joke like, put Phil on the plane, and his family, who has no idea what he does, they just know like his day job, but they don't know him as an artist at all, was just like, put Phil on a plane, and they bought into it because of that. And then they started pledging, and they were on Facebook saying, guys, you got to put Phil on a plane. He's never been on a plane before. And they would pledge, and then they would come back and pledge some more. So they kept updating it. So it was kind of funny to see that he's going to get on a plane now and go to Montreal. Yeah.
So one of the big things with Kickstarter, for anyone who's not familiar, is that when you pledge, you have different levels, and if you pledge at certain levels, you get certain rewards or kind of return for that. How much of a challenge was that for you guys to figure out what you wanted to do? Did you spend a lot of time like kind of agonizing over it? Did you just throw it out there? And did you gather any best practices from that process?
Do you want
to? I knew that the rewards were very important, but I was so anxious to just hit the ground running that I had to kind of pull back the reins a little bit. And I went ahead and looked at what Cody did for his rewards. And I had another friend with a really successful Kickstarter project that I went and kind of used as a guide and gauged what fit with what I was offering, and kind of used that as a little cheat sheet in order to make my rewards work.
You can go ahead.
I was going to say we sort of agonized over it. Denise and I met. We met several times and actually came up with a bunch of different lists, and then we would run it by people. So we would sort of say, would you support this? What do you think about this? And Denise's husband Donnie was really helpful he had supported a number of Kickstarter projects of different sort of genres, and he was just instrumental in kind of helping us sort through and figure out what would be the most marketable, but also what fit our personality and kind of what we wanted to put out there. And one of the things that we talked about a lot was really not wanting to separate the music and the artwork. We really wanted to keep those things together as a unit so that it wasn't like you could pick. It was like, this is a project and this is how we're doing it, and we want you to engage with us, as we do this together. So I think that really played into how we structured our rewards. And we just decided, actually, we got a lot of communication from our backers and other folks who said they'd be really interested in a vinyl album. When I bridged that to Denise, she was, of course, excited because it's bigger, right? It's 12 inches instead of 4. And so, she was like, this is awesome. This would be great to have, our project on vinyl. And so we have 10 days left of our project, and so we're going to launch that as kind of a new reward. So one of the great things about Kickstarter is you can actually tweak your project after it's launched. Not the goal and not the timing, but you can tweak the reward. So if you get a backer who's really interested in one thing, or a lot of backers who are interested in one thing, you can actually add that thing if it works with your budget. So
During the course of that Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I had a gentleman from Europe that he wanted to back me at 200, and he wanted to know what was going into the making of kit, and I hadn't planned on, I was going to work that out if the project got funded, so I had to just kind of sit there and scratch my chin and try to figure out what's going into the making of project. So other rewards definitely did evolve throughout the actual run.
But what was your experience, Paige, with the rewards?
I'm sorry, I couldn't make out what she said.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me forever. I had to make myself stop looking at other things that people were doing. And I had to go back to the group and just say, like, well, what's kind of unique about us? And then we went from there. I mean, I had like tons of ideas, and then I scratched it. I just sat down at like midnight one night and made myself iron them out. And I think it kind of represented like our personality. And I knew that our bigger donation, if it was like 1,000 or more, we do, as a group, we like have monthly potlucks. So we just have we get together and we take ourselves out of the creating, and we go to someone's house and we just drink wine, have great conversation and good food. And so we were like, oh, that has to be our big one. So we're going to do, thanks to Jackie, she's going to host our backyard brunch. And we'll have like a backyard brunch for our donors and the people that kind of supported that. So I think it's really nice to sort of make it about you and your group and the artists that you're working with.
Fantastic. What would you say to someone in the audience who's? Oh, actually, we're having questions already. Okay, apparently we're going in the tyranny of the masses here.
So I'm working on a Kickstarter right now for a food product, and I'm wondering to what degree you all focus on beefing up your Facebook friends first, and to improve sort of percentage-wise question, the percentage of likes that you got on Facebook. How did you see that? And has everybody here sort of played on Kickstarter yet? Because
You can
I know
track it.
So the number of likes that you had on Facebook, did you see a proportional growth in your investment as your likes grew, or no?
I think we had more likes than we had backers.
Yeah. But I mean, the growth of the number of likes.
Whenever I launched the Kickstarter and I started getting likes, I went through those likes and noticed there were other artists. So what I did was I built up a little database of artists. And if you are going to launch a Kickstarter, I'd recommend just starting a Facebook, even if it's just your company. And another thing that I found was a little taboo, that one of my friends that launched a project that was unsuccessful, they constantly asked for funding. And what I did was I just asked for people to just simply check out the project, and if they liked it, to share it. And I found that it was a lot more successful than straight out asking for funds. So that might be something you might want to consider.
We did the same thing. We didn't really say, give us money, support us.
It just felt
we said,
wrong.
Check it out and share it with your friends. Because that's really what it's about, is like, out of every 200 people, maybe one person would be interested in it. But you got to find that one person. So how are you going to find that person? Well, you can find them through Facebook, which I think in the end was like maybe 11% of our funding were actually, like, if Denise and I posted on Facebook and that a person clicked that link to Kickstarter, Kickstarter tells you your stats. So it'll tell you what your percentage of links from Facebook was. And it was, 10%, which is great. But it wasn't 80. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think the truth is you got to work your networks and get it out there in every possible way. I mean, I think my Aunt Betty sent my email that basically just said, if you have 2.5 minutes in your day, check this video out and pass it on to somebody who might like it. She sent it to like 40 people, and 3 of them really liked it. And so, I found out later those were some of our funders. So, you never know where it's going to come from, but I don't think there's any, there's any golden, there's no golden egg. It's all about networking. That's a great question. No, it's actually I got the mastered files back yesterday, and we're making some edits, and Denise just uploaded the artwork yesterday, so we're really close. Really close.
If I was starting a Kickstarter project, or I had one in mind, I wanted to do it, what would be your suggestions? So what do I need to do and prepare myself for, get in line, my ducks in a row before I go and really get to launch it? The checklist, maybe.
Make sure that you have a blog that you can interact with. I'd definitely suggest having a Facebook and possibly Twitter. I don't really mess with Twitter that much. But I found that those two avenues help you keep connected with your audience.
And I guess I would just quickly say, read the directions. Kickstarter, seriously, I've done a lot of grant writing, and Kickstarter, I know Paige has too. Kickstarter outlines for you what a successful project looks like and how to make one. I'm serious. They have like a Kickstarter school. They have an amazing website, and it's a great resource for artists, whether you're doing a Kickstarter project or not. It's like, if you have an idea for a project, here's a great way to put it together. They give you tips on length, on amount, on rewards, on how to reach out to your backers. They really give you all the information you need. We initially talked about doing like a 45-day campaign because we thought there's no way we're going to raise $4,000 in 30 days. We're like, how on earth are we going to do this? But we looked at Kickstarter, and they were like, the majority of projects that are funded are 30-day projects. Now, why the math works, I don't know. I think Jason mentioned earlier, it's a sense of urgency. It's easier to stay connected for a month than it is for 90 days or whatever. But they give you awesome directions on the Kickstarter website, and we pretty much followed them to the T, and I think it paid off.
Cody, you had some thoughts to share?
Yeah, I think for mine, when I did my Kickstarter project, all the resources you guys talked about didn't exist when I did mine. Mine, I guess, was almost 3 years ago now. But the 2 key elements I discovered is to make sure you have the essential keywords in your description. Very important. Any word related to the project you're doing, the industry you're in, sneaking into your product description. And the second, the secret weapon for me, and the reason mine went viral is I had original content in the video you can only see in the video. So I did have a blog, I had a lot of other resources, but if you repeat those everywhere, they might read your blog and go away. I pushed everyone to the original content in the video, and basically just said, if you wanted to see my sample artwork, go here. So it was more of, see the content, so content's king, right? See the content, if you like the content, maybe they'll back it. So that was my approach versus sort of revealing the project and hope they go to Kickstarter. They had to go to Kickstarter to see the project.
Well, and Cody, I'm also wondering how, looking at, because these are kind of fresh projects here. You've got 3 years of kind of time that has passed since then. How significant was that Kickstarter project for Sweets and your career?
It was great because the Kickstarter people told me that as far as major published comics, mine was the first to make it to print from Kickstarter. So just because of that idea, the project did go viral. A lot of people were talking about it. It got some really good traction because it was so early in the process. It's a little bit tougher now, I think, because if you search comics, you'll get close to 12,000 Kickstarter projects.
There's a lot.
When I did mine, similar to Denise's project and Joanna's project, I got picked up at the front page, and that was probably the biggest thing. You hit that front page of the website, and everyone did that. So that was a big deal, but we stayed connected. As you start, you guys haven't gotten to this point yet, I don't think, but as you start packaging all their stuff you're going to send out, the communication increases. It's pretty labor-intensive, so I have to bring in some help. So just the process of getting out all the stuff, and for mine, I had a book that was coming out over a 5 or 6 month period, so I had to keep up with issue 1, that goes out, issue 2, that goes out, the sketchbooks, all the merch. So that process was really, every time I did it, I would kind of announce on Twitter and Facebook, and I would say, hey, the shirts just went out, right? And all the backers that would follow me on the social media would kind of cheer and celebrate, and they'd link back to the blog. And so those little kind of back and forth communications really kind of ignited the fire around the project. So the sense of community that happened on the web web throughout the whole thing was, I mean, it's probably the biggest. My Kickstarter was only for marketing. I already had a publisher. Mine was only for marketing. But the Kickstarter project itself, probably tenfold of what I spent on Facebook ads and stuff like that.
Wow.
Just the social aspect of Kickstarter.
Well, and you're also pointing out that the social aspect of Kickstarter, we had talked about it kind of leading up to the project and getting funded, but you're pointing out, and then some of the natural dialogue, but you're talking also the significance of you got to stay on top of keeping that dialogue going, because there's opportunities to keep leveraging that energy, and getting people excited, because these are your fans, right? Presumably whoever's putting the money in, they're your super fans, they want to go and spread the word.
And most of it was, honestly, after the project was funded, was on Provoke. So I would simply, at that time, I don't know how it works now, but you'd log into Kickstarter, you could send out a blast to everyone that backed you, no matter what dollar amount, and basically say, example, the t-shirt ship. And that's all I would do. I wouldn't necessarily go on Twitter and Facebook for everything, the major ones I did. And they would carry the load because they're invested in the project, they feel like they're a part of it now, it's something, they feel like they helped create it, which they did. And so once they invest in it financially, they invested in emotion. And they sort of carry the load for it in a lot of ways.
Love it.
It's an interesting concept because I didn't realize what would happen, the connection with the readers and stuff, but even today when I go to conventions and I have the books there, they bring their Kickstarter books or they sign the t-shirt that they got 2 years ago. It's pretty amazing. And so the relationship continues, and now as the projects come out, they're picking up those projects, and so you see the sales of every new thing I do increases as
Interesting.
stuff sort of, it's a root system that gets planted.
That's a great way to put it. And one of the things I just wanted to share with you all, because I was doing some research into this and trying to find innovative projects, to be able to talk about. And one of the things that I found, because one of the things that I think is kind of most interesting, or at least the potential of Kickstarter, is the opportunity to use it as a vehicle for some more experimental kinds of projects. The kinds of things where before you invest too much into it, let's see if people actually want to see this thing happen. And one of the ones I wanted to share with you all that I just thought was one of the more interesting ones I found was there's this artist in New York City by the name of Molly Crabapple. And she's done some really interesting projects, one of which was she said she was going to go lock herself in a hotel room, cover it in paper, and cover the entire room in drawings over a course of like a 7-day period. And part of what she did was, based on how high a level you pledged, you got a bigger or smaller piece of that walls. Also, if you pledged to a high enough level, then you could actually tune in to a webcast of her drawing sessions. So you could watch her as the little, the little rat in the cage going and drawing all this stuff. And I just thought it was a really kind of innovative use. It's one of those things where, like, how could she get that funded any way else, right? There's no real way to do it. Well, she was able to make it happen. Raised, I think, like 40, and she was shooting for 25K or something like that. And then her latest project, she's going to do these large-scale, like 9 large-scale paintings, kind of highlighting different aspects of the Great Financial Meltdown and all this stuff. Is going to do a similar thing where if you pledge at a high enough level, then you can tune into her painting sessions and all that. And she already went and raised she was shooting for 40 and she raised 65K or something like that. And that was, it hadn't even closed out yet, in that way. And I think, that's just a great example, I think, of how you can kind of use this to experiment and to try. Go ahead and throw something out there. It doesn't even necessarily have to be fully baked. Let's see what happens, on that. So I'm kind of curious for you all. I mean, you guys have obviously all had successful. Is this first Kickstarter experiences for everyone? Okay, so fantastic first experiences. What's next? Are you guys thinking about wanting to use this again sometime? Do you already have some plans in mind or any thoughts on that?
I didn't want to do it too quickly, but I have a children's book that I've written and have done initial 3 or 4 illustrations, and I tried to do it the conventional way, get it published and stuff, but the publishing industry has gotten so selective. It's really difficult to kind of break in, and it's now kind of common for people to self-publish. Back when I graduated from college, it was frowned upon, self-publishing. But now it's really celebrated, and so I'm not going to do it, maybe till next year. I don't want to ask people for money right away. I know, but yeah, that's my next. This has been such a great experience that I would love to see my children's book published. I mean, it's been a dream of mine, and so and I have plenty of people, everyone who has seen it likes it, so so I'm hoping that one will do as well. So
I actually promised my friend that filmed the video has a graphic novel script that he's working on. So I promised him that we'd do a Kickstarter, regardless if mine got funded or not. So that's going to be my next project.
Awesome.
Yeah, I haven't thought about doing another one yet. And I think, like you're branching off and doing your own, and then you're collaborating with someone else. And I think it kind of takes the right project to do that. I mean, for me, I feel like one of my missions or goals in Lafayette is to educate my audience on more of what I do. And so I think that's kind of created this great donor base for me. And so it's more about like nurturing that for me right now and seeing where that would go. And I don't know, I don't have a project in mind right now. So, but maybe in the future.
But it sounds like you intend to maybe do something though. Once now that you've got that donor base, you intend to potentially do something. You just don't know what.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Joanna?
Yeah.
I have a long list of ideas, but I probably would, if I was going to do another Kickstarter project, the best part of this for me was really collaborating with Denise. So I think I would look for another collaborative project. For some reason, I've had really great success with that in Lafayette. I feel like I'm in this pool of incredible artists and creative people. And so why not? We were just saying outside, two heads are way better than one. So I think if I was going to look into another one, I would look for a collaborator.
Excellent. Well, and I think that's really inspiring because, kind of like some of what we were talking about earlier this morning, so much of what's coming on the horizon is going to really be based on this collaboration between what used to be you used to be a musician, used to be an artist, you used to be that. Well, now it's let's break down those walls and find a way we can be working together, in that. So the fact that you've got that mindset, and I think we live in a community where we have like-minded creatives in that same way as well, and we've got enough talent that I'm really excited to see, what can happen as this cross-pollination happens. Any last questions for our panelists?
Are any of the projects still open, or have they all closed?
Mine is till Sunday. Sunday's the last day for mine. So you can still go and donate. Yeah. Right. Which is great because there's the percentage that's taken out. So going over means that then I'll go back and get, at my 4,000 or whatever that is.
I actually launched my project a month before Christmas, and I had backers that would fund and then defund. So it was very nerve-wracking, and I messaged each one and let them know there was no hard feelings, and I totally understood. And about half of those went back and pledged again, not quite as high amount, but they still pledged, and it helped get me over the line. So I think that communicating with everyone regardless, thank everyone, even if it's just $1, just thank them and let them know that it's appreciated.
Fantastic.
And Denise and we're like 10 days and counting on our project, so we're very excited.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you all. Thank you all.